folks. Welcome back to another episode of Unfinished Business Television. This is the reviews episode, so you know what that means. Today, we're going to talk about 6 recent releases. We're going to review them or cinematically evaluate them. I am your host, Jeff Galashaw, Unfinished B2. That's my social media tags are. It just seemed random. Unfinished B2. But with me as always is my main man, technical support, co-host, and all-around filmmaker, Andre Joseph of AJ Epics Productions.
Save the whales. Our planet needs them.
Okay, well, no, we're not doing a Star Trek movie, but you never know. In the future, it could be a deep dive. And so, let's start this review show off with something a little fun. We're going to talk about Quiz Lady, directed by Jessica Yu and starring Aquafina, Sandra Oh, Will Ferrell, Jason Schwartzman, Holland Taylor, and even friend of the show, Charlie Talbert, has a role in this, as well as Angela Trimber, an actress, dance teacher extraordinaire, and dancer who plays Marge in this film. Quiz Lady is basically about 2 sisters who are estranged, and they have to come together after their mother kind of blows down, owing, I guess, a gangster of sorts a lot of money, and he ends up kidnapping their dog until he gets his money. The twist is that he treats the dog way better than they ever would. And now these estranged sisters have to come together. Aquafina is more the homebody, the smart one who's been watching this quiz show for all these years growing up. And Sandra Oh is more the wild party girl sister who has come back to town and kind of needs a place to stay and has all these ideas, has all these drugs. That's the gist of the story. But this is from Gloria Sanchez Productions, Will Ferrell's production company. And I will admit, this film, I didn't expect much going in because Sandra Oh is an accomplished actress, not necessarily known for comedy all the time. But, you know, she is awesome in this film. Aquafina is very memorable in this film. My favorite scene is when I guess she's auditioning to be on the game show and she's taking too many drugs. She's just hallucinating. It's it's not a shocking film, but there are some like gross out and shocking moments. Tony Hale's role as Benjamin Franklin was just like, okay, you know, part for me. And Will Ferrell actually plays, you know, kind of, I guess, the fatherly game show host, and Jason Schwartzman, kind of the schmoozy, take on Ken Jennings, who's trying to kind of take Will Ferrell's job while being a contestant who's going for the record of wins. And all around, it's a nice, I guess you could call it a buddy comedy. It's more of a family comedy. And it has a lot of goodwill. And there is a cameo at the end that I think will get everybody who grew up with this person right in the heart. And I suspect that is why I think Andre Joseph gave this film a positive review too. Andre, what did you think of Quizly?
Yeah, that cameo definitely was heart soaring. So we won't spoil it. So you should check it out. Yeah, I'm with you. I really did enjoy this movie. It's good to have finally like a really good feel good comedy that I haven't seen in a while. Aquafina and Sandra Oh have great chemistry together, and this is probably my favorite Aquafina performance that I've seen out of anything that she's done. Seriously, because I just love the fact that here she is. She could basically game this quiz show, and yet she's so uptight and so like insecure. And again, the scene with the drugs is one. The one where she's at work and obviously because somebody recorded her answering all the questions. Now she becomes this instant celebrity, and she's like, all of a sudden, she doesn't want to be a celebrity. You guys like filming, like, no, don't get away from me. I love that stuff about her. She just, she's genuine without having to be mushy about it. The whole subplot with having to rescue the dog was also like over the top, silly, but it works. And overall, you just have a good story about family and sisterhood and just not holding yourself back when there's an opportunity. So, and even Will Ferrell's part, like you said, was also something that typically you would think, oh, he's playing nice on TV, but he'll be a complete asshole in real life. And it's not like that. He's sort of like almost a Willy Wonka type, just not a dickhead like Willy Wonka. And yeah, you're charmed by him too. So overall, I definitely give it a recommendation because I just think if you're having a rough day, this is a movie that, is comfort food that will keep you up and lift your spirits.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's a feel-good movie. I was gonna actually say, Will Ferrell's like Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, okay.
But here's the here's the thing. I know I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this. I like the movie. I won't say I loved it. I like you said, it's a feel-good movie, but it's just like I like the emotional turmoil that the film offers, like you said, with Aquafina characters who knows she can ace this, but it's like she's holding herself back emotionally, and she seems to like not go. I like the fact also, like with this in Joyride, that here's a movie that stars two Asian women, and while it's brought up, it's not what the whole film is about. They're allowed to be characters first who happen to be Asian. So I like that about the film. I mean, I'm really liking it for Sandra Oh because we never usually get to see her in these types of roles. We know Aquafina can do this in her sleep, the comedic parts and the dramatic parts, because she was in that, I can't remember the name. It was directed by Lulu Chang, a drama that I felt she should have got an Oscar nomination for, where her grandmother is dying, but the family can't tell the grandmother. So they just come and act like it's a visit, even though it might be their last chance to see her. But like you said, I love that film. The only one thing that got me in this film was, okay, remember when they go to the sports bar and they're like looking at the TVs, and I guess Sandra Oh tries to hold the TV hostage, but then she falls, and then nobody's concerned about her. There's just one random guy. Is the TV okay? In a Rob Schneider comedy with that like yelling, but it's funny. But like I said, I give it a recommendation. Like you said, if you're feeling down, go with it. But I can't give it a high recommendation. But I mean, I don't think you'll be disappointed. Nobody's gonna come out of here and be like, "This was shit," So we both definitely recommend Quizly. Next, we're gonna go with a little drama by the name of Pain Hustlers, a Netflix original. That should be said first and foremost. Starring Emily Blunt, Chris Evans, Andy Garcia, Catherine O'Hara, who is the most shocking casting in this movie for me. It's directed by David Yates. It's again another move. It's another movie kind of about the pharmaceutical industry and the people who sell it to doctors and getting it sold, because Emily Blunt is playing down on her luck single mother who's a stripper. That was one of the first red flags. I was like, really? And she lucks into this job, showing her hustling side through Chris Evans, who has a questionable accent that made me wonder, other than he obviously must have a contract with Netflix, was he just creating the accent for the character was based on, or because he was bored and wanted to experiment? And you have Catherine O'Hara as Emily Blunt's mother. And, at the beginning, it shows all the good things. The drug sales are rising. Her wallet's getting fatter. She can afford things. But then the turn comes when it ends up like, the downfall. The drug is highly addictive, and they claim that it wasn't that addictive, and it's ending up ruining everybody's lives who are involved. And now that she wants to tell everybody to stop doing it, everybody who she's bribed and gotten into this position now is sitting there saying, "No, you're not going to mess up our money." Um, and it's a movie where where the most innocent character in the film ends up becoming the major villain in the last act. Um, I wanted to like this movie. It has the ingredients, but unfortunately, by this time, we've seen this story and as a true story in so many other series and movies that, we're kind of used to this. And it doesn't help that they're kind of aping Wolf of Wall Street a lot of times, where it feels like more a Martin Scorsese or a wannabe Martin Scorsese movie. And, I guess the dark comedy of the first half does not match well with the second half, where you're just like, geez, these guys are just mostly horrible, and it's not all fault of the actors, but it just feels like a film that kind of needed more work tone wise. I can't really recommend it. I'd say if you just like the actors involved, give it a chance. But I can't say highly oh, this is a must see. Andre, how did you feel about Pain Hustlers?
They shouldn't be casting Emily Blunt as a stripper because she has no ass. That's just my opinion. Sorry. But yeah, I just we've been down this road before already. We've already had Dope Sick, which was excellent and took the subject matter of that drug seriously and already went into the whole deal of getting attractive people to go out to the pharmaceutical places and the doctor's offices and, exchanging favors for the doctors to sell the product. We've done that. And then we had Painkiller with Matthew Broderick, where they did pretty much what they did here with this movie. They tried to almost satirize it while having this dramatic irony undertone to it. And it's like, you're not doing anything new. And I feel like you're almost still insulting those people who had to suffer through that drug or have lost a loved one to that drug. And there's really nothing new you're adding to the conversation other than to show that story from the perspective of Emily Blunt. But we already kind of did that in Painkiller as well. There's a whole subplot with a girl that gets recruited to do this and ends up getting addicted to the drug. So it's like, you're not telling us anything new. This feels like almost like a knockoff movie you would see on Hulu as opposed to Netflix. And I feel like the only reason this got made was because you had Emily Blunt and Chris Evans in it. And, oh, we're going to sign the check because, hey, they've done major films in the theaters. And it just doesn't work. This came way too late.
Yeah, it feels like one of those things where a celebrity is trying to support a charity, or just rich people are trying to support a charity, but they're not doing any of the field work. They're not actually going out personally helping people. They're just being the face of it. And that's what it felt like watching this movie. The heart might have been in the right place, but it doesn't feel like they had to do much. It was like, oh, I'll just send a check. Cool. That's the equivalent of what this film feels like. It's not horrible, but like you said, it just feels like a knockoff of something we've already seen. And especially for the talent involved, it should feel more original. So I do not recommend it. How do you feel about it?
I do not recommend it.
Okay, so we are in agreement again with Pain Hustlers. Next, we have a mystery movie. We have A Haunting in Venice, where Kenneth Branagh once again plays Hercule Poirot, who is supposedly retired after the tragedy of the last film where his best friend died, and is pulled in once again to another mystery, this time just to help a writer friend to help prove or figure out what ruse this supposed psychic is pulling. And then, of course, can't be that simple. So there's much more intrigue involved. I have to say I'm surprised by this movie because this is the first time that Kenneth Branagh has played this character and made the movie, and it's really good from start to finish. The previous films they were okay. The first, obviously the first one was the better one. Second one, eh. This one, like, it proves that maybe he should keep this going as a franchise because it works. But I think it also works because his character isn't, as always, isn't really looking to be involved and kind of has given up. And then through this finds a reason too, because there's so many twists and turns that I do not want to spoil here. But he doesn't necessarily rely on stars again, which I think is also really good. But he does the stars that he does have, they're actually really good actors. Also, you have Tina Fey, you have Kelly Riley from Yellowstone, you have Jamie Dornan, and the child actor who played in Kenneth Branagh's Oscar-nominated film Belfast in the film also. And he's working with the same screenwriter, but this time he didn't help write the film; he just directed. And I mean, you have the lush visuals of classic Italy. You have, even though it's not a horror film, you have those elements in place with the cinematography, the lighting, and of course, since it's a Hercule Poirot and Agatha Christie, everybody has a secret here. And so, that slowly gets revealed. And I think it really shows a lot of character work for Kenneth Branagh. There's less comedy in this film than in the previous films. There's no like, oh, I have to take care of my mustache. Nothing like that. And I have to say, I was like everybody else. When I first saw the trailer, I was like, oh, he's doing the hard thing. But I'm actually proud of Kenneth Branagh. This is a knockout year for him. Oppenheimer, playing in that and this. I'm like, Kenneth Branagh, man of the year. And also, this is Michelle Yeoh's first role after winning the Best Actress Oscar for Everything Everywhere All at Once. So it's nice to see her in this film. Andre, what did you think of A Haunting in Venice?
Yeah, I still think it was so silly with that first trailer where they tried to make it look like it was a generic horror movie until he shows up in like the very last shot. But no, I did enjoy this. I'm with you that I think Murder at the Orient Express is the better of his Agatha Christie adaptations. But this is still a fun movie that plays into, those sort of horror thriller elements, but not overdoing it. There's still like, you question, are there really spirits running around, or if it's just somebody, manipulating the situation that he's in. Tina Fey is definitely, I think, the standout in my view. I think she's pretty much a scene stealer throughout. I like Kelly Riley in this. I wish Michelle Yeoh had more screen time, but I was fine with her performance. And yeah, I like the kid from Belfast in it. He definitely was more intelligent than what I would expect that character to be. So yeah, I don't have any complaints about it. I only wish I like to see him continue playing Poirot because I do think it's fun to see what characters and actors he assembles, which books he's going to do. Maybe he'll do the ABCs of Death or one of the other adaptations. But can you just maybe at least give David Suchet a cameo in one of these? I mean, you're talking about a guy that kind of made the character famous in those A&E movies they used to put out with Poirot. He should at least have one, cameo in there. He's still around, and he's a great actor.
Well, my thing with this is if any of these streaming channels wants a franchise, this is definitely the one you should invest in. And don't cut corners because one of the things I really liked about this film is that we're actually at the actual location. It's not CGI or on a soundstage. He explores the space. And I really feel like as a director, he's coming back into his own again, like in his Henry V days or his overblown Hamlet movie. So I'm like, I think I really like this film because I'm just so proud of him, like his own little comeback and I wish, like, stay on this track. Obviously, I recommend this movie. Would you agree?
I do. I don't highly recommend it, but I think it's worth watching.
My only thing is Netflix, if you get it, do not glass onion it or knives out it by forcing the stars who you have contracts with into this film. And maybe someday I will reveal my ideas for a remake of Clue and who I would cast after watching this.
Do it soon. They're gonna make it.
Yes. Well, maybe next episode. We'll see. If it's a slow news day, I'll pitch it to y'all. Next, we are going to review Blue Beetle, directed by Angel Manuel Bota. But I'm going to let Andre take the lead on this review because he saw it before I did. And did you see it in theaters?
I saw it on HBO Max.
Oh, okay. I thought you had seen it in theaters. But still, do you introduce the movie or in review?
Okay, so Blue Beetle, that is the kid from Cobra Kai, Zolo. Forgive me for pronouncing his name, Manuela, or however we say his last name. The kid who plays Miguel on Cobra Kai.
Yeah, let's just go there.
Yeah, he basically plays Blue Beetle in this movie. We see his origin story, how Reyes, I believe is his name. It's been a while since I've seen it. He comes across Cord Industries, and I guess the daughter of Ted Cord, tries to escape with that amulet in the shape of a beetle, and she puts it into a sandwich to hide it. He takes it for some reason, and then the beetle basically takes over him. So now he's got this exoskeleton suit, becomes Blue Beetle, and you got Susan Sarandon playing Ted Cord's evil sister, trying to get the thing from him because she's trying to build like a whole army full of Blue Beetle types. I like this movie, strangely enough. I avoided it in the theaters because, like everybody else, the DC brand as it stands is just a complete mess, and there's a lot of problems with it. But there was always something that was a bright spot about Blue Beetle in the presentation of it, not just being a standalone movie where there's some subtle references to the Justice League. Everybody talks about the Batman is a fascist joke by George Lopez. But if you put all that aside, and the fact that maybe there's some points that feel like this could have been a Rodriguez Spy Kids movie, it's actually pretty enjoyable. There's not the most original things going on. You have your nods to Marvel, you have your nods when it comes to the DC universe in terms of the special effects, the storyline, but you do feel invested in these characters, and you like that there's that family dynamic going on where they get involved in the action, they get put into jeopardy, and the just, I guess, even the villain's backstory. And I'm not talking about Susan Sarandon, but the guy that she recruits to go after him, and then seeing what his upbringing was something that felt a little different. And then the way that turns around at the end, I thought was actually pretty brilliant. I do recommend it. I don't highly recommend it because obviously this DC brand is all over the place. But I think if they do want to continue with that kid as the character, I'm all for it, because I think it's not his fault that the whole brand is a mess. That if this had come out probably around the time of the first Shazam movie, I think this would have been a much bigger hit.
I agree with you. It's one of those unlikely and uncanny films that where you don't expect much, and it's actually way better than you thought it would be. And I like you. I like the family dynamic of the tale, how they're all involved. I was surprised to find out that the one who plays Mother was from Predator. From Predator, I was like, whoa! It has been a while. Even though the film focuses on her cleavage a lot in the beginning, which was weird. But I really liked the film. I thought Zolo as the main character, he has a lot of charisma. He has that innocence, and his kind of flirtation, romance with Korg's daughter, played by, oh my God, the beautiful Bruna Marquezine. And it reminded me of like Black Panther, Lupita and Chadwick Boseman's kind of flirtation and dancing around each other. Um, I mean, again, I like that this was, again, a DC movie that was made for more of a family or teen kid audience more than, let's say, adults like or die hard comic book fans. And the only weak link in this movie, surprisingly, I didn't feel like Susan Sarandon had enough malice as the villain. It felt like she phoned it in. And
And if you know Susan Sarandon, she could probably go even more over the top with that.
yeah, I'm like, I don't want her to be like, ridiculous, twisting mustache and twisting hair, but it was like, I need a little more Cruella de Vil up in here, not this like, oh, I'm just a businesswoman. I'm like, did you just base your characters on people you usually protest? Because like I said, I just didn't feel that malice. That's why you kind of are happy when you have the henchman on screen. Because, like, oh, finally, somebody who seems like really bad and really evil. I even like Harvey Guillén from What We Do in Shadows as the scientist, even though it's a minor role, him being, his character's turn, because I don't want to spoil anything. But, like when they go into the cave and discover all the inventions, it felt a little bit like the Watchmen, Patrick Wilson's character, like with all these inventions in 1950s, it looks like, kind of stuff. Well, like I said, it's an enjoyable film. I wouldn't mind seeing him pop up in other DC films, or if I know it most likely won't happen. If Max I almost called it Cinemax. If Max wants to like fund a sequel strictly for Max, I would not be opposed to it. I'd give it a try. I like you. I recommend this film. I won't highly recommend it, but I will say it will keep you entertained, throughout.
And my only other complaint is I thought the girl was a little too tall for him.
Maybe she was wearing heels. Uh, but I'm like, do not recast her because, oh my God. Yes. Anyway, now we're going to go to our next movie before our grand finale review. We're going to talk about The Killer, based on the graphic novel directed by David Fincher, and also kind of a reunion with Seven screenwriter Andrew Kevin Walker. It stars Michael Fassbender as the title role, The Killer. And he works for a network and he kind of flubs an assassination. And of course, you know what happens when you flub. He's got to go on the run as his employers try to kill him. Here's the thing with this film. It's expertly made. It's a beautiful film to watch. The cinematography, the score, the acting, I guess you could say, there's not much for acting in half of the scenes. And, Michael Fassbender adapts well. It's a movie that's just cool, more than anything. It's all about style. And it will remind you of Lay Samurai, only a lot more interesting. But also, it's kind of a wry commentary on capitalism with all of his monologues, while he's trying to do all these killings. And, you have Tilda Swinton as the expert, you have Arliss Howard as the client, and you have this actress. This, even though it's a David Fincher film, I will say it's more stylish, but it kind of reminded me of like when Steven Soderbergh tries to do action movies like Haywire, where it's just all style. The story's kind of secondary because you probably know where it's going. So he's just like, let me get you to this point, and then let's see what happens. And it's enjoyable, but it's also a film where you feel like the director has more talent than this. He should be doing bigger and better films. This just seems like something like, hey, I want to do something. I'm taking it easy. I just did Mank. That was dramatic. Let me try something that's just like kind of a crowd pleaser, even though it does challenge the audience who's looking for nonstop action. And, you have Tilda Swinton in it, and whenever she's in the film, her character's not going to be good. But I like it. The ending is a little weird, anticlimactic, but it kind of works for the film. Um, I would recommend it. Again, like you, I don't highly recommend it, but I would say it's worth a watch, especially if you're a fan of David Fincher or you're more into style in movies. What did you think of The Killer?
Everything that you said, it's beautifully shot. It's very well acted. The one thing I will say about it, and what I do appreciate about this movie, it's not like a plot-based film where, okay, he screws up a job and now the whole world's after him. It feels more like I'm reading a novel where every chapter is him on a new assignment, going after a different target, and every target gets harder to take out than the next. And maybe you have this kind of through subline plot with, I guess, the girlfriend or the wife that's in the hospital. Um, yes, and I don't think there was anything more that I could ask about it. I was entertained, especially that brutal fight in the one guy's house with the dog. I mean, that was pretty damn intense. And I think Michael Fassbender totally did his thing there, where he just really was playing a character study more so than just like a plot based character going through like he needs to get something to the very end. No, it's like he's doing his job and he have these inner monologues of what he's thinking, what he's going through. And I do appreciate that because you don't get that in the theaters as much now. You have to find it in, a smaller picture, of course, being made by a very successful director, but you don't see that anymore. And that's what I really like about it. So I do recommend it.
Oh, studios aren't taking risks anymore. So, of course, he has to go through Netflix to get this film made. I just wonder, did Michael Fassbender have to learn yoga before he took this over? Did they just write it in because he just does it naturally?
I'm pretty sure he does yoga because his shape, he looks like he does a lot of stretching.
Well, I mean, I know it's one of the rare times Michael Fassbender's in a movie because now he's in the F1 racing. So, like, I hope we get more films like this. But maybe, like, again, he was burnt out by studio films and found another interest. And when the right project comes along, he'll has no problem starring in it because I'm sure a lot of actors could have played this film, but I don't know. He's such a character actor. He kind of disappears into the role that he can be distinct, but he could also be just anybody in a crowd. So I really think that is to his strength as an actor and to the strength of the movie. And we both recommend this film. And now we come to the finale review. And it's a movie we all know all of you want to hear about. We are going to review Barbie, directed by Arthur's own Greta Gerwig. Written by her and her partner Noah Baumbach, starring Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, America Ferrera, Ariana Green, Ariana Greenblatt, Will Ferrell, Harry Neff. Is it? I don't know why I just said it like it's a Ray. Alexandra Shipp, Emma McKay, Kate McKinnon, Dua Lipa, even Emerald Terrell, writer director of Promising Young Woman, is in this film. I'm going to let you start us off on this review of Barbie.
So even though I'm not a Barbie fan, I've had an appreciation for Barbie through some of my female cousins and, girls that I was friends with in school that collected Barbie dolls. I remember seeing all the commercials all the time on TV. So there's always appreciation for that. I knew this movie was going to be a hit just from the simple fact that this was a movie that was going to appeal not just to this TikTok generation of girls, but to just women who've grown up with Barbie for generations. And, like anything else, I'm a G.I. Joe guy, I'm a Transformers, Ninja Turtles guy. So I wasn't going to go and pay money to see this, but I was intending to see it at some point once it hit on video. And I did, and I wasn't disappointed, believe it or not. I think Margot Robbie is great. Ryan Gosling is great. He's channeling like his old Kids Incorporated, Disney, Mickey Mouse Club kind of personality. I really love Kate McKinnon in this movie as like the crazy, creepy Barbie that we've all seen in somebody's house. All the contraptions, all the crayons all over it, and she completely nailed that. She was awesome. And I got to say about Greg Gerwig's direction, it works, because any other direction you would take with taking a toy and adapting it into a movie, they could have screwed this up big time and it would have been a disaster. And yet, even through all of the feminist messaging and things that one might consider, whoa, it works here because it's trying to have this really good message about what it means to be a real woman in the real world. That in Barbie land, it's like all these Barbies have these empowering personalities, and Issa Rae is like what, President Barbie or something like that. And, you have all of them having different careers, and they're hugely successful, and they're all almost flawless. And the guys, all the Kens are kind of like second class citizens. But to see where Margot Robbie's classic Barbie has to go through this journey where she has to deal with the fear of death, the fear of aging and sagging, and things that real women actually do think about, is something that quite honestly is real and deeper than just trying to sell toys. And I think that's what makes it work. That might turn off some guys who just think this movie is just pro-feminist, but something, having America Ferrera in it as the girl that idolizes Barbie, but then having the daughter who's like very much the woke daughter that thinks, oh, Barbie is just capitalist nonsense. To have those dynamics play out, still, it's like everybody's conversation is in this movie. It's not like, okay, all the men are bad. No, there's something a little more to that gets addressed. So I appreciate that Greta Gerwig got all of these little layers into what was otherwise, you would say, a 2-hour commercial to sell toys, but she made it deep and at times hilarious that it totally works. And I even think Rhea Perlman playing the original Barbie creator was really fantastic to have. That's totally like something you would think Helen Mirren would be playing as opposed to playing the narrator. But the fact that it's Rhea Perlman getting thrown a bone here is pretty nice to see. So I'm not going to highly recommend it because I've seen better movies this year, but I will say I enjoyed it enough that I do recommend it.
Okay. Well, I agree with most of what you said. I highly recommend it. Because I'm like you. Yeah, of course there was message, but I like that it was delivered to be meaningful, but then also it had a lightness to it that, it was like, yes, this is serious, but we're not trying to depress you here. Also, we want to show you can be feminist and you can be fun and you can be funny. And, obviously the patriarchy it's the enemy, but you kind of see their side and why it's like such a revelation for them. But and I like the in jokes of, what was it? They wanted to hear some song, and 3 hours later, the men are all playing it on their guitar. And then even the inner kind of arguments of like Simo Lu's Ken versus Ryan Gosling's Ken. And I'm sorry, I do have on order I Am Ken Enough hoodie coming. So I'm like, the musical sequences I loved, especially, I'm just a Come on. That is like year and best of material right there. And I'm happy Ryan Gosling was game because I know like a lot of people were like, oh, he's too old and stuff like and I thought he played it perfectly comedic, dramatic, over the top, but still effective and still good looking. Um I thought Margot Robbie was pitch perfect, because again, a lot of people think when she's cast in a lot of these roles, oh, she's just like the typical blonde, good looking, but with a rebel streak. And here she showed she can play many different layers. If anybody doubted her talent, I'll admit I still haven't seen Little Women, but I like that Greta Gerwig can make an independent film, historical kind of adaptation studio film, and just a fun movie, like you said, that delivers a message, but also could be seen as a plug for the toy. That unfortunately, I know Mattel wants to make Hot Wheels into a movie. I just don't see that same, heart in that movie. And I highly recommend this film. I don't know if it would be on my top 10, but it would definitely be on my top 20. I really enjoyed myself with this one more than I expected to. And, like you, I didn't really, I didn't play with Barbie, but I knew girls who did. And of course, you couldn't escape it growing up as a kid, seeing the commercials, the cartoons, so I was just happy everybody got represented. And also, for those of you who are like Netflix fans, obviously Greta Gerwig is a fan of the show Sex Education because like half the cast is in this movie. So I was like, wait, no way is that Eddie? Oh man, it's that Maeve? It's like, come on, Greta. I see where you're coming from. And but yeah, I hope she continues to make films like this. As long as from the films I've seen her direct, they always have heart. And they always kind of have kind of a style to them. And I hope she keeps making films like this or where her heart desires and just brings that integrity and, I guess imagination and what she wants to say with her to each project. So I highly recommend.
I also got to say, too, that I like that she did her homework in that there were a lot of Easter eggs and nods to the whole history of Barbie, like having Michael Cera playing Skipper or
Alan. Yeah.
Alan, right? But you had Skipper in there. You had the controversial grow up Barbie, where the tits got bigger because they were trying to represent puberty. The Barbie rocker toys from the 80s. Like she threw a little bit of everything in there.
You even have like Midge,
Yeah.
Barbie's friend. You had Polly Pocket.
Yeah, Polly Pocket.
I'm like, and I like seeing Kate McKinnon in this film. She was when Kate McKinnon,
She was great.
yeah, it's gonna be crazy. But like I said, I really enjoyed this film, and I think a lot of men are probably gonna be like, I don't want to see fucking Barbie. It's a girl, so I think they'll find something to enjoy in this. Also, I really liked it. I mean, some of the cameos, JC. That's all I'm gonna say. Was literally in everything now. But like I said, I just love this movie, and I definitely give it a highly recommend. So, anything else to say about?
I just say I recommend it again.
Well, that's the end of this business. But as you know, we always have unfinished business. But also to let you guys know, we're going to be going on a hiatus for the holidays. So I don't know when this will air, but we will be back with new episodes probably towards the middle or end of January. So if we don't see you before then, happy holidays from me and Andre.
Happy Kwanzaa, happy Hanukkah, happy Boxing Day, and Merry Christmas.
And Happy New Year. And we will see you next time.
If you like this review, please be sure to like and hit subscribe to be alerted to new episodes in the future.